Shalom, my name is Todd Bennett, and I grew up in Christianity and have spent most of my life in the Christian church and involved with different organizations and college ministries and all sorts of things. And through my time in the Christian religion, I witnessed many people fall away from the faith. And, that could be due to any number of reasons. Sometimes their church is very cultic and they feel like they're being controlled and manipulated by their leadership, or they get hurt by leadership in the church. Sometimes they recognize some of the pagan things that have infiltrated into the Christian religion, such as Easter and Christmas, which come from Babylonian sun worship, and yet they're mainstream holidays in Christianity. Sometimes people see contradictions or apparent contradictions between what they read in the Bible and what they're learning in their church, and they think, it's all just made up. It's all confusing and contradicting, and so they throw up their arms in frustration and sometimes just walk away from the church and walk away from their faith at the same time. A lot of this is just because there's a lot of bad teaching in Christianity, especially in modern Christianity. We have anybody can get behind a television camera or get up behind a pulpit and teach, and it doesn't matter whether they know the scriptures and are teaching the truth a lot of times, as long as they're charismatic and people like the way they talk and like the way they speak. And so sometimes we have these people that are supposed teachers that really aren't teaching sound doctrine. Whatever the reason, that people leave the faith, it's very sad, because in those cases they're oftentimes confusing their faith with their religion. And if you get right down to it, most people still would admit that they believe in God, they have their essential core beliefs, but they've just been turned off by the religion that they've witnessed and experienced, and so they turn their back on it all. And of course, this is one of the big problems with religion, and the Messiah actually warned against this type of thing, and he said that the leaven of the Pharisees was hypocrisy. And this is very relevant to our modern day religion, because the Pharisees were really the predominant sect or denomination of the day. They proclaimed that their way was the right way, and they developed all sorts of rules and regulations to keep people on their path, the path that they said led to truth. In fact, the word Pharisee actually comes from the Hebrew word prushim or parush, and it means separated, and as in one who leads a life separated for purity. And they really thought that they were the pure ones. They were the righteous ones. But it was all built around their religious construct and through the rules and regulations, which they referred to as takanot and ma'asim. So they considered themselves pure and righteous, separated from the world by their own rules and regulations, the takanot and ma'asim. Now, they essentially constructed a religion within the assembly of Yisrael, within that community of Yisrael, where the worship centered around the temple in Jerusalem, and they were supposed to follow the Torah, which is the instructions, the commandments, while the Pharisees essentially assumed control of the faith and built their own religion within that community, which we see has ultimately resulted in what we know as modern-day Rabbinic Judaism. Rabbinic Judaism actually derives straight from the Pharisaic sect. So by and through these rules and religions, they essentially built a fence around the Torah. Okay, so the Torah is often referred to as the tree of life, and that's where we're supposed to be finding our life from that tree of life, and it's our source of life. Through the instructions and telling us how to live. Well, they built a fence around that Torah, so nobody could actually get to the Torah, get to the tree of life, because they built a fence around it. Now, they did it for, again, pious and supposed good reasons to keep people from and prevent them from transgressing the Torah, but the fact of the matter is they kept people from the Torah through all these rules and regulations. We're not supposed to do that. We're not supposed to add to or subtract from the commandments, and that's exactly what they did. So they created a religion, and which is essentially a system that tells you how to live. And religions are meant to direct and often control the way that we live our lives. And religion is an external system. It's governed by man, it's created by man, and it desires to get inside of you and actually change the way that you think. And the thing is, we don't need a religion. We need a relationship with the Creator, God, better known as Elohim in the Hebrew Scriptures. See, the terms of that relationship are spelled out in the Torah, that tree of life that I talked about. But it's often referred to as the law in the English language and in Christianity. So the Torah, which is supposed to be our source of life, is treated as some legalistic bunch of rules and regulations that nobody could possibly abide by, and it's considered to be onerous, and people think the law puts you in bondage and all sorts of things, when nothing could be further from the truth. The Torah is the instructions of a holy Elohim that guide us in holy living. And the Hebrew word for holy is kodesh, and it means to be set apart. So just like the Pharisees considered themselves to be kodesh, or set apart, or pure, the Torah is what sets us apart, makes us holy, not the rules and regulations of a man-made religion, but the instructions and the commandments and the ordinances of a holy Elohim. So while the Pharisees claimed to be set apart or holy, they were not, because they weren't following the Torah. Rather, they were following their own religious traditions, and they were claiming to be righteous through those traditions. Now again, that's what religions do. They define proper conduct, and often it only involves external conduct. And that's why Yeshua described the Pharisees in Matthew 23:27 as whitewashed tombs, which indeed appear beautiful outwardly, but inside they're full of dead men's bones and all uncleanness. So, in other words, they appeared righteous on the outside, but they were filthy on the inside. And again, that's another byproduct of religion. Now, faith is the exact opposite of religion. Your faith is what's inside of you. It's the truth implanted by the Creator. And when we have that truth in us, it's supposed to be revealed and demonstrated by our actions. So it goes from the inside out versus a religion which goes on the outside and tries to get into you through those rules and regulations. So our faith, though, is not just a nice thought or a prayer in our minds that maybe we said at some point in our lives in church or at an evangelical meeting or anything. Faith is what we do. So it's not just internal, it's expressed by our outward actions. And that's why James said in James 2:18, but someone will say, you have faith and I have works. Show me your faith without your works, and I will show you my faith by my works. In other words, faith has to be expressed outwardly. So what we truly believe ends up manifesting in the way we live. Now, so we might say that we have faith, but if we don't express it through the way that we live, then we really don't. So we have to be careful of that. And we read in Matthew 5:14-16, where the Messiah said, you are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. So our faith is how we live. Now, sometimes people confuse the two, and their religion with its accompanying traditions often becomes their faith. They actually think that the religious system is their faith, and so by doing the various things that their religion tells them to do, they believe they're justified and they're actually living a righteous or proper life. And that's what the Pharisees had done. Their man-made religion had become their faith. And we read in Matthew 15:3, when Yeshua said to them, why do you transgress the commandment of Elohim because of your tradition? By placing their traditions above the commandments, they were actually transgressing the commandments. As a result, their man-made, man-defined righteousness is going to keep them out of the kingdom. And Yeshua specifically said that in Matthew 5:20. For I say to you that unless your righteousness exceeds the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, you will by no means enter the kingdom of heaven. So he was making a profound statement that the scribes and the Pharisees were not getting into the kingdom because they weren't obeying the commandments. They were following their own rules, regulations, and traditions, their own laws, but they were not following the laws, the Torah, the instructions, the commandments of Elohim. We won't find righteousness through any religion, only through the Torah as taught and lived by Yeshua. He was the Word in the flesh. He showed us how to live and walk out the commandments. So He is our righteousness, and when we emulate Him and walk in His ways, then we walk in that same path of righteousness. But sadly, religions, like I said, build walls around the simple truth that's revealed in the Scriptures. So people can never actually see the truth any longer, only the religious construct that's built around the truth. And that's why Yeshua stated in Matthew 23:13, "But woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you shut up the kingdom of heaven against men, for you neither go in yourselves, nor do you allow those who are entering to go in." So Messiah Yeshua came to tear down those walls and show us the truth, and that is the context behind most of the confrontations which he had with the scribes and Pharisees. He was really perturbed at the fact that they were hiding the truth from mankind. And he came there to tear down that truth, to tear down that fence that they'd built around the Torah, to tear down those religious walls and constructs that had been built around the truth so people could see the simple truth. He came against religion, and that's why religion conspired to kill him. Now, since his death and resurrection, men and religions have rebuilt those walls even higher. And that's why Yeshua sent his Spirit. When we have the Spirit inside of us, we don't need religion to tell us what to do. The Spirit empowers us to break through the walls of religion and live according to his instructions only, and break the shackles of the man-made religious systems that we've grown up in and have known and learned most of our lives. His commandments give us life and set us free. And all too often, religions are the ones that put us into bondage. And that's why Yeshua said in Matthew 11:28-30, "Come unto me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Now, this is the same promise that was given to Israel in Exodus 33:14. And he said, "My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest." Now, when we follow his presence and obey his commandments, we have rest. And that's the picture that we're given through the Sabbath each week. When we obey the commandments, we get rest. Now, by promising rest for our souls, Yeshua was specifically identifying himself with the ancient path referred to in Jeremiah. And we read in Jeremiah 6:16, "Thus says Yahuwah, stand in the ways and see, and ask for the ancient paths, where the good way is, and walk in it. Then you will find rest for your souls." That ancient path is the Torah, the instructions and commandments given to Yisrael, the bride. She failed to obey and committed idolatry, which is spiritual adultery. And the Messiah came, though, to restore the bride through his blood. The yoke of the Messiah is the Word. It's the Torah. And as the Word, Yeshua was the Torah in the flesh. And the Torah points the righteous path, and Yeshua showed us how to live righteously. Now, we know that his commandments are light and life, as we read in Psalm 119:105. "The Word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path." And Proverbs 12:28 states, "In the way of righteousness is life, and in its pathway there is no death." So we're supposed to have the light of life within us, and that light is supposed to shine through our lives. And again, the walls that religions build around us through false doctrines and traditions often cover up and block that light. If we have a spirit, then we have the truth within us to guide us in the ancient path. That is true faith. So if you've been let down by your religion, don't confuse it with your faith. Go ahead and reject the religion of men, but don't walk away from your Elohim. And that's what we're here to do in Shema Yisrael publications, we're providing literature, teachings, materials for people that have walked away from their religion, people that have seen problems, issues with the religion that they've grown up in, and they just want truth. And we're here to provide that truth. The Walk in the Light series is a 12-part book series which sifts through all the layers of tradition that have been heaped upon our faith over the centuries. And it gets down to the basics. It puts the Messiah in his proper context and his teachings in their proper context. So I would encourage you to check out our website, www.shemayisrael.net. Get our materials, read our books, watch our teachings, and if you have questions, certainly contact us. We'd be happy to help. Until next time, shalom.